This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure to order Jamie Glazov's new critically acclaimed jihadist psychopath, how he is charming, seducing, and devouring us. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, impeachment, tool of the communist movement. Backed by popular demand, with us this evening, John Guandolo, the president of Understanding the Threat. John, what an honor to have you back.
Thanks very much. As always, it's really great to be back with you.
And we're always competing in terms of our ties, but you seem to be winning in terms of the popular vote. We're getting a lot of emails every day, and the votes are for you overall.
That's good to know. It's not only good to be a warrior in the counter jihad, but to do it looking good and being stylish.
All right. Before we proceed, how's your music career coming along?
It's great. I want you to know, for you, I cut short my normal Thursday evening music jam with some friends just to be on with you. So they were disappointed, or at least they acted disappointed. They might have been glad, I don't know. But
right. The word on the street is that the women are reacting like they used to the Beatles and to Elvis every time you're coming into a place where you're playing. Is that true?
No, that is not true. But thank you for that compliment. I'll take it.
It's what I heard. It's the word on the street. John, before we get into the impeachment issue, how are you doing in terms of the Unholy Alliance's persecution of truth tellers? Are they up to anything against you lately? How are you prevailing against the totalitarians?
Well, we have, as you know, we still are in the midst of a legal battle with the former sheriff of Minnesota, who's working with Hamas doing business as CARE and others, a major jihadi in Minnesota there, as well as Hamas doing business as CARE. That's in appeal, and that's actually looking pretty good. So I'll trust that I might be optimistic, but I trust that the justice system in the end will wash out in favor of the truth. So there's that. And then, of course, several weeks ago, Newsweek did a hit piece on me, trying to, say that the work we were doing is, of course, outrageous and stuff. And again, we just keep saying, show us something that we say that's not true about the threat, and we'll stop saying it. But speaking truth about something isn't a cause for legal action or anything like that.
Let me guess, were you called, I don't even have to read it, were they calling you a white supremacist, racist, Islamophobe by any chance?
Yes, your adjectives are right on the mark.
Yeah, that's a pretty good guess. John, we saw impeachment fail recently. I don't even know if impeachment means anything anymore, because we know it's basically a war against our president and the globalists and the deep state, the Unholy Alliance, whichever segment of this war we want to discuss. But the left is trying to take him out, and they were doing it through the intelligence agencies, as we know. Then they were doing it through the political process, through the Democrats. And in your view, this whole impeachment saga or charade, whatever we want to call it, it's actually a tool of the communist movement. Tell us your thoughts on that.
Well, I'd like to contrast something, and there's a great example. I was talking to a colleague of mine who is still in the FBI, and he was sharing with me, talking to his in-laws about everything going on, and what we have to, if we contrast what that generation, so maybe your parents' generation, sees from a U.S. government perspective, they see the federal government as a government that landed a man on the moon, as a government that won World War II. And what we have now, let's contrast this very clearly, is you have a government right now whose former CIA director and FBI director, John Brennan and James Comey, were communists, are both admitted that they were communists. John Brennan admitted he voted for the Communist Party presidential candidate and had those leanings. And James Comey admitted when he was younger he was a communist. He sided with the communists. And James Comey admits today that the guy he looks to more than anybody else for philosophical underpinnings of his life is Reinhold Niebuhr, who's a socialist leader. So these are the guys running the CIA and the FBI. This kind of person inside those agencies would be unfathomable 40 years ago. But these are the guys, and people just seem to accept it. So I want to begin the discussion by contrasting those things of how far we've come. How far we've come. It's pretty astonishing. So if we look at the Marxist communist movement in this country, we look at I'll put 2 data points on the table, make a point, and then let's go which direction you want to go. Trevor Loudon did a beautiful piece on the 50 most easily identifiable Marxists inside the U.S. Congress, and all 50 are Democrats. And when he says easy, they're very easy to identify based on the people they're working with, organizations that they openly say, like Democratic Socialists of America, all those things, CPUSA, Maoist organizations. And so you've got that. Then you've got this party with leaders of the intelligence agency who are Maoists, communists, Marxists, coming after the president, lying on a statement of facts for a FISA application to cover candidate Donald Trump. And this coup is ongoing, and that's the thing the American people need to keep in mind. The coup is not stopped. You have the Speaker of the House and others in leadership positions of the Democrat Party saying, we're coming after him. They said it before there was even a charge. We have to impeach this guy. Men like Joe Biden and all these other guys. So all of this is going on. They're using impeachment to overthrow a president that was duly elected, and the impetus behind it is directly tied in with the Marxist communist movement. And I would argue very clearly that the Democrat Party today, the national DNC, is the Marxist Communist Party of America. I mean, and it's been that way for years. By the way, it's the reason the Communist Party USA stopped running a candidate. So that's but now they're overt. What Mr. Trump has done is he's drawn them out. They're being overt, but that's what we're up against. And now imagine we have a massive jihadi network in the U.S. that is working at the ground level and at the national and international level with these communists here. It is a real imminent danger to the United States.
And we also know, as you have discussed, John, that John Brennan, there's a lot of evidence that he had been, that there was a Saudi intelligence operation against him. To make a long story short, he converted to Islam. And it's no surprise all the things that he did during the Obama administration, including overseeing the taking out of the words Islam and radical Islam and jihad out of the intelligence agency manuals and all the damage that did, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing's ever been done about that to this point, right?
No, that's correct. We're still fighting an uphill battle on the inside because there's no understanding of the actual threat and the networks that exist. And this is the one thing, if we make one point tonight on this big issue, it's that the communists and the jihadis in the United States not only work together, the level of coordination, the level of organization, and the level of influence they have at the upper echelons of our government, but also at the state level, is truly amazing when you take the time to dig in. And obviously this is all under this understanding the threat does. This is what we do on a day-to-day basis. And that's the part I think most Americans do not understand. And every time we do a training program, just had a conversation today with someone on my team who met somebody at the Trump rally yesterday in Arizona and said, yeah, I understand, about the jihadi threat. And they just started laying some things out. And the other person said, no, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. It is so much more organized and coordinated. And that's the part that people don't understand. And that's the reason that they're advancing at such an exponential rate.
When you mentioned the House Speaker ripping up the State of the Union speech behind Trump, you know, I thought I was seeing things at first. I thought that must be some garbage on her table or something. I was just mind boggled for about 2 seconds, thinking that maybe it was some security thing she was doing, but I don't know. Can you imagine Paul Ryan ripping up Obama's speech behind him? What's all that about?
Right. No, I cannot. The shrills from the political left in this country, which includes most of the traditional media, or if we want to use the phrase mainstream media in this country. Right. I mean, this is just what you're seeing is defiance. And that's the one thing, if I can say about all of this and that kind of behavior, is I hear good Republicans saying things like, these people are acting childish, this is crazy behavior. So, well, it may be crazy, it may be childish, but they're part of an effort to overthrow a duly elected president.
Yeah.
And she is spitting in his face by doing it right there. Now, his responses have been brilliant. I mean, he has an innate ability to absolutely drop nuclear grenades into the communists and the jihadi right in their laps.
Absolutely, John. In my view, there's also a spiritual dynamic. I really myself believe there's some kind of, there's a possession going on, and this is it's a severe case of course, Trump derangement syndrome, but some kind of demonic. They just cannot handle the good things that Trump is doing for America, because, as we know, the evil forces are trying to destroy this beautiful country. But that kind of thing.
Yeah, can I say something on that? I just actually put something out on social media. You know, the Democrat Party's playbook, Rules for Radicals, which is a book I know you know, but for your audience, it's a book about Marxist revolution, and it's dedicated to Lucifer. And Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Obama were not only acolytes of the author Saul Alinsky, but they taught that material. A book dedicated to Lucifer. Karl Marx made a pact with Satan. So when you look at this, and there's a new book, a relatively new book out called Marx and Satan, but this was known before if you read Marx's writings. He was not about Marx, what he said he was. His writings say he was about burning the whole thing down. That's what this is about. So there is a real element, not just because you're saying it or I'm saying it. They say it. They tell us what they're relying on.
Absolutely. And when we study exorcism, and you bring that holy water in front of the person that's possessed before an exorcism, the way they begin to behave. And in no way am I saying that Trump is a holy saint or anything like that, but I believe that he represents something good, and that the evil forces are just going absolutely crazy, that he's doing these things to save America. Thank you, John, for your contribution, what you just said, because, we've got that book, Saul Alinsky, giving a tribute to Satan. It's just very interesting. Let's put it that way. John, we're running out of time. Everybody, go watch the Understanding the Threats new YouTube video, Texas High School Teachers' Incoherent Responses to Questions about Sharia and Islam. John, I watched that clip. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what happened is John Guandolo came to this certain speech by this Texas high school teacher. She was giving a speech about, the Israel-Palestinian conflict, etc. He asked her a couple of questions. John, very briefly, tell us what happened in the conversation you taped. You were very heroically and stoically calm in a very impressive way in that clip. But go ahead, tell us what happened.
Well, thank you. I just asked a simple question, and I stayed on the question the entire time. How can you expect there to be a real, honest dialogue about peace in Israel with a group of people that call themselves Palestinians when they are signatories to the Cairo Declaration on Human Rights in Islam, which the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the largest voting bloc in the UN, whose members include all 56 Islamic countries in the world, plus the Palestinian territories, that's what they're called, 57 member states, that's every Muslim nation on earth, at the head of state level, signed the Cairo Declaration, which says when we, the Muslim world, talk about human rights, we are talking about the imposition of Sharia. They specifically say Islamic Sharia, this is a quote, is the only source of reference, end quote, for all the articles in this declaration, which is the Declaration on Human Rights in Islam. So they say we deal with other human beings, non-Muslims, only through the lens of Sharia. My point to her was that means they're on record officially, because that was served to the United Nations. The Palestinian territories, the leadership, are on record saying that when we deal with Israelis, we deal with them through our understanding of them, which is through the Sharia. And in Sharia, Jews must either convert to Islam, submit to Islamic law and pay the non-Muslim poll tax, or be killed.
Right. Now, I wish we had more time to talk about this. Her name, this is a Lake Highlands High School teacher in Dallas, Texas. Her name is Tracy Bishkin, and she gave this 1-hour presentation entitled The Israeli-Palestinian Conflict. But John, during the exchange when you were taping the conversation with her, overall, her position is racist against the Jewish people. But during the exchange with you, she said your perspective is racist. It's very interesting that this teacher thinks that Islam is a race. I mean, how does a person like this even teach?
Well, right. And my point is, she's one of thousands of teachers like this, which is why our public schools have become what, quite frankly, when they came under government control, I believe it was in 1870, this is the natural outcome of this. It might have even been before that, but I believe it was right about then, when we started treating public schools as government entities as opposed to community entities, where families and communities ran the schools as opposed to the government. And I think it's a big difference. I think we need to strip the government from this. I would abolish the Department of Education. I would take governments out of it, certainly the federal government. If local governments wanted to do something, then you leave that to the people. The federal government has no constitutional authority, nor do they have any lawful authority to be running schools. It's outrageous.
Yeah, John, but I encourage everybody to watch this video because there was a kind of a Socratic method that you were using, and I praise you for it. Very, very sharp, very shrewd. You were very calm, just asking very normal, sober questions, and she just, all the incoherence just coming out, trying to talk about this and that, and then one of the things she said, she's trying to defend Sharia in some way, but at the same time, she was saying that only bad Muslims want Sharia. This is actually fascinating, right?
Right. She was saying that only Saudi Arabia, Iran, and some of the Taliban want Sharia, which is just absurd. So she admits that some Muslims want Sharia. And then when she said, but Palestinians don't, and the Palestinian Authority doesn't, of course, I put up the Pew poll numbers that show that 89% of Palestinians want Sharia. And the Palestinian Authority, of course, they want Sharia. That's the whole purpose of Islam. But we have those numbers too. I mean, it's just, so she's not only disconnected from objective reality and facts, as you just said, we're actually going to use it as a training video for students, because we teach people how to talk about this and how to rebut normal things that people say. She went through the laundry list in 4 minutes. I mean, what about the Nazis? What about the rapture? She was all over the place. It was outrageous how she has a job, how she was teacher of the year at Lake Highlands High School, to me is outrageous.
Absolutely.
And someone in Texas should be fired for this.
It was every single lunatic tequila lying point. But look, the best way to end the show now is because people who want to watch that video are going to go to Understanding the Threat. And so, John, before we go, all the people that are on the edge of their seats now saying, we got to support John Guandolo, where do they go?
Understandingthethreat.com is a place to begin. I want to say it this way. Understand the Threat is the only organization in America giving tools to empower citizens to identify the communist and jihadi networks at the local level and dismantle them legally, lawfully, and showing you how to coordinate your efforts with people in the community, how to organize, train, all that. That's what we do. And so you begin by coming to understand the threat, getting on the newsletter, because that plugs you into all the things we're doing, the show, radio show, the TV show, the social media, all of that. And then finally, we just launched our Freedom Fund Minuteman project. And the idea is, if you're out there and you say, well, I can't do all that, commission us, be a Minuteman and commission us to do the work for you through a number of ways. But so certainly financially, but we're looking for any amount, $10, $25, $50, whatever, every month. So we get and we build up thousands of people so we can build what we're doing, because right now we have a growing number of successes. In the last 6 months, we've shut down 2 significant Muslim Brotherhood operations. We are helping police open investigations, indict people. This is stuff going on, and we are training people across the country like nobody else is doing. So thank you for helping us promote this.
And thank you, John, for everything that you're doing. And thank you for your courage. And is it okay for me to call you an honorable gentleman?
Absolutely.
Okay, and that you are. Thank you, everybody. Go to Understanding the Threat to see everything that John Guandolo is doing and support him. And we will see you soon on the Glazov Gang. Good night.